This is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Back in the lab, Reggie and Luke back at it. Another episode of Superior Sports Talk presented by Locked On Sports Minnesota. What's going on, Reggie?
What's up, man? I'm feeling good. Lynx got win number 1 last night. Woo. They're off and running.
First one's the hardest, man. Today we're talking some Twins. They're trying to juggle Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa. Some Vikings OTAs, news and notes. Plus, later, I'm putting Reggie on the hot seat with what does it mean. It's all coming up on Superior Sports Talk. But first, if you enjoy Superior Sports Talk, you'll also enjoy our other daily show with former NFL receiver Ron Johnson. Ron offers the unique view of an athlete turned broadcaster and brings you high-profile guests like Braylon Edwards, Adam Thielen, and Robert Smith. Subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel or your favorite podcast feed so you never miss an episode. All right, well, let's talk about those Minnesota Twins, shall we? I'll give you fans props if you're staying up late for these, man. Another late one. First pitch, not till 8:40 p.m. Twins lose to the A's 5-2. Royce Lewis goes yard again. We'll get to him in a moment. Dylan Bundy goes scoreless. Only pitched 3 innings, I believe. And then Josh Winder takes over. He allows all 5 runs in 3 2/3 innings pitched. Not much doing offensively again without Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa. But just quick thoughts, notes. Last night's loss 5-2 versus the A's, Reggie.
Well, it's tough, man. We talked about it going into this series. Like, they had to take advantage of these games against the A's. And, you know, they win 2 of 3. They're doing all right, you know. Considering every team in the division lost yesterday, by virtue of the Royals and the White Sox playing a doubleheader yesterday, they split that. So every team lost yesterday in the division. And it's just like, okay. All right. So, I mean, it presented an opportunity for the Twins to just go up, you know, at least one more game in the division. And so that kind of sucks that they weren't able to do that last night. But, you know, another day, back at it this afternoon, and they can take advantage.
Yeah, you hope once Buxton and Correa hopefully maybe come back today. Who knows? They start to get their bats going a little bit. They can take this series and, again, start to take advantage of that soft schedule. We got to talk about the elephant in the room here. You bring up Royce Lewis, number 1 overall pick in all of baseball. He looks every bit the part, by the way, offensively and defensively in the field. And you're thinking this guy's just playing too good. There's no way they can send him back down when Carlos Correa returns. But sure enough, here we are. Just hours ago, Twins announced Lewis will be sent back down as Correa set to get back into the lineup. Reggie, I get it. They play the same position here, shortstop, but we were banging the table for the Twins to find a way to get both guys on the field and in the lineup together. Not so fast, my friend. What's the Twins' thought process here, in your opinion?
I think their thought process is they signed Correa to a big money deal this year for him to be the guy for them. And it's like, look, I guess you don't want to stunt Royce Lewis's progress at all. If Correa's going to be healthy and he's going to play and he'll be, you know, a full-time starter, it's going to be tough to kind of stunt a young guy's process and his progress by, you know, limiting the amount of at-bats that he gets, limiting, you know, the playing time that he gets because he's behind Correa. And it's like, well, you could maybe find a way to get him in at another position, but it's like, well, do you want to stunt his growth as a shortstop? And maybe some fans think like, well, you know, that doesn't matter, you know, because he'll be able to adjust back to the shortstop position, you know, at a future date. But I think the Twins are just trying to play it cool, play it safe here. But I mean, it was a tough decision. I guess it wasn't that tough because they made it. But, you know, he hit a home run last night, and you're just like, well, like, I don't know this dude. But, like, you know, if you send him down, he gets to play every day with St. Paul. So then when you have to bring him up again, he's already, you know, loose in rhythm and all that, and he can contribute to the team again. But I would not allow this to be a thing that makes him stay down for very long. I mean, I think you got to find any and every opportunity to bring him back up. And I know, a lot of fans were talking about, the Twins valuing service time. So, if they send him down, then, that adds to the time that he's in the league and without them having to pay him and all that good stuff. And, baseball has a lot of that going on. We saw it with Chris Bryant several years ago with the Cubs. They sent him down at the start of the season just to bring him back a few weeks later so that they could add to his service time, which delayed them having to pay him. And so, playing the long game, maybe we're just a little too inside baseball with it because, we got our feelings attached seeing Royce Lewis grand slam last week, another home run last night. You're like, oh man, this dude is playing. This dude is doing it. But the Twins are like, you know what? We know what we got. When my wife and I go shopping, and I remember a few years ago we were going shopping for Christmas trees, and we were like, okay, we had a number that we were going to stop at in regards to what we were going to pay for these Christmas trees. And then all of a sudden we saw the numbers and we were like, dang, these Christmas trees are expensive. And so I looked at my wife, I said, you know what? We know where it's at.
Yep.
We know where it's at. We'll come back. If we need to come back and get this tree, we'll do it. And then I feel like with the Twins, they're like, look, we know where Royce is at. He's over in St. Paul. If we need him, we'll come get him. But, he might be a little too expensive for their blood right now.
Little cat and mouse game going on there for sure. The Twins have to find a way, though. We talked about it all week. Talked about it last week. They got to find a way to maximize their best 9 guys. And certainly Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa both need to be implemented into that game plan. While we're on the topic, ESPN released 10 trades we could see go down in the MLB at some point in the season. Number 4 on the list was the idea of Carlos Correa being moved sometime this season before the Twins could ultimately lose him next offseason. If you were to decline the next 2 years on his deal, making him an impending free agent, and like maybe this is just a 1-year rental deal, or maybe they end up moving him for pieces anyways. The article notes the good problem the Twins are in with Royce Lewis, as mentioned, knocking on the door at shortstop and being ultimately the long-term plan there for the Twins. And moving Correa now to get a healthy return and assets back. What do you think, Reggie? I mean, Twins go get a couple nice arms to add to their bullpen, or maybe even just one shutdown stud reliever, something like that, or hold on to Correa as long as you can, as we haven't even really scratched the surface of seeing how good this lineup could be when everyone's fully healthy.
Yeah, he struggled a little bit out of the gate, Correa did, and, I think what sucks about that injury is it seemed like he was starting to pick it up a little bit. And now, you got the injuries to set him back a little bit. And, maybe it takes him a second to get back up to speed. And if that happens, then you're really going to have the people like, hey, that's why you should have just kept Lewis. But it's like, look, you didn't sign this guy for nothing. But I think what's interesting is if things start to trend towards maybe Correa not re-signing or you really just feel strongly about the future and the youth movement. And you're like, you know what? We want Royce Lewis to be our guy. Maybe he's just like but over in St. Paul, just killing it. You know what I mean? And you're like, you know what? We can't wait anymore on this guy. I think it would be unwise to let this season run out with Carlos Correa, not knowing if he's going to be coming back, and also having a luxury piece like Royce Lewis in the wings. I think it would be unwise for them to leave Correa on the docket without making maybe a deal. We've seen with the Twins that pitching is never enough. So if you can find a way to deal Correa down the line and get a couple arms that are gonna help you, play some meaningful baseball down the stretch. This is still a championship expectation type season for the Twins, and so you're like, well, if Correa's killing it and Royce is killing it in AAA, you're like, well, maybe we flip Correa for a couple arms, one in the farm system and one that could help us right now. and then we bring Lewis up and we just keep the thing rolling. Maybe you make a decision like that, but I think we're just a little premature at making a decision like that. But that is something that they do need to keep in mind as they move forward.
And it's early, right? What, 6 weeks in? This is a long baseball season.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Twins right now, though, still haven't seemed like they've gotten into much of a rhythm offensively. That order has changed night in and night out. Correa's in, then he's out. Buxton's in, then he's out. You bring up Royce Lewis. He flashes a little bit. Not to mention the 3 or 4 other young players coming up with a lot of potential. They're trying to sprinkle in. Hopefully, as this season progresses, you get in the thick of the summer, then they can get into some sort of, again, just momentum here. Start to really find out the true potential of when everybody's healthy, including Carlos Correa. And if it's not what you thought it was going to look like, even if Carlos Correa isn't in the long-term plans, the value you have with him, if you want to go on and move him and go get, like you mentioned, some stud pitchers, maybe some young farm guys, some nice prospects waiting in the wings, it's not a bad idea to have. And that's why I think ultimately when we brought him in, we paid him that monster 3-year deal. We said, well, even if it's only 1-year rental or maybe you end up moving him anyways, Carlos Correa is a name brand. He brings value to the table, and any team come July would be pounding on the door to try to acquire a guy like that for their playoff push. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We talked a lot about hopefully the Twins could take advantage of this soft spot in the schedule. So far, 1-1. Lost one versus the A's. Looking for the series win today in an afternoon game. First pitch, 2:37 p.m.
It's always sunny in Minnesota.
It's always sunny, man. Even with a little overcast going on this morning. That was sunny on the mound. Coming up, we're talking Vikings OTAs, and later I'm putting Reggie on the hot seat with what does it mean. But first, do you want instant post-game reaction from insiders that cover your favorite teams? Check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On team hosts are broadcasting live with team insiders like Kevin Gorg for the Wild and Brandon Warren for the Twins. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Okay, Reggie, Vikings got through their first 2 days of OTAs, gleaning some light here on certain position battles and injury timetables for guys like Irv Smith, Andrew Booth Jr., who continue to kind of take things slow and work their way back into things. But let's dive into some other position specifics, starting with arguably their one and only real starting job battle at right guard were Jesse Davis and Chris Reed, 2 veterans brought in via free agency this offseason, start out the season as the front runners. But how long until second-round pick Ed Ingram starts to make a push, do you think? Or is this a two-man competition until proven otherwise? Like, what's your initial thoughts on the one and only starting job position battle?
I think it provides it's funny because with Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi coming in and just kind of going chalk as far as like bringing some of the veteran pieces back, adding pieces to what's already been assembled. I think it's really cool for them, I'm sure, to see some competition play out. I mean, look at everything across the board on the offensive side. Like Kevin O'Connell is a competitor, and I'm sure he likes to make competition happen. And like, I saw Dalvin Cook yesterday banging the drum for Kane, and he's like, hey, he has no ceiling. I think he should get more carries. And meanwhile, Deuce, Alexander Madison, he's like, wait a minute, Dalvin, what you talking about? Hold on, wait a minute. But I think it's cool for guys like Kevin O'Connell to like see, and this coaching staff to see some competition, because you look across the board, you got Cook, he's the established starter. Cousins, JJ, Thielen, Osborne, Irv Smith Jr. You got Christian Darrisaw, you got Bradbury. All these guys are kind of like shoot in as
set
the
in
starters.
Stone. Yeah. They're locked in.
And so you're like, ooh. And one thing is just like, look, it's right guard, but it's just like, ooh, some competition. Okay, come on, guys, let's see what you got. Let's do this. Let's mix it up. Let's see who has the
pop here.
Yeah, let's see who has the best chance to win this starting job for us. And I think Kevin O'Connell is probably just like salivating at just trying to get these guys in a rotation and see who can win this job. Even early on, it's just like, ooh, that competition is going. Let's see. He's like a little kid in a candy store right now.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion of the Vikings getting more center competition all offseason, maybe bringing a guy like J.C. Tretter from the Cleveland Browns, who's still a free agent, to push Garrett Bradbury. But as of now, it's clear, after getting every single first-team rep, he's the guy. And despite them not picking up his fifth-year option that would have paid him over $13 million, which they were never going to do, that never meant the Vikings were ready to kick him to the curb, but more so, it's just a prove-it year now for Bradbury, who has the starting gig all to himself and could make himself a lot of money if he finally reaches that first-round potential many were expecting now in year 4. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball here, everyone was anxious to see the Vikings' new 3-4 base defense look. The Vikings started out with Armon Watts, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Harrison Phillips as your 3-down linemen. No Hunter, no Za'Darius with their hand in the dirt at the 5-tech. They're not getting cued or anything quite yet. It feels like those guys are stand-up edge linebackers in the base defense for now. Who knows? I'm sure Ed Donatel will sprinkle in some different wrinkles and things like that as time goes on. But it's early. It's install time. I'm really interested to see how these backup positions battles shape out, because Vikings have a handful of young guys in the rotation behind the starters that could sniff out some serious playing time. And one guy you should keep your eye on is James Lynch from Baylor, who flashed a lot last year as a rookie, and he played the 5-tech at Baylor. So he's comfortable and familiar with the role. I'm expecting him to make a strong push for that starting spot over Armon Watts when this is all said and done. Reggie, what other backup position battles are intriguing you right now? I mean, wide receiver 3 and 4, backup running back you mentioned, safety corner. I mean, linebacker, there's a whole mix of young guys. The starters are set. There's a lot of moving pieces, though, in that second and third team right now.
Well, it's interesting because, shout out to Harrison Smith. He just became a father. Congrats. So he's not participating in OTAs right now. And so I think that kind of presents an opportunity for the young guys. Last week they had the rookie camp, and guys like Lewis Seen, were able to finally kind of mix it up in purple. And so, I think with Harry kind of missing some time right here, it kind of gives some of these young guys behind him, the Cam Bynums of the world, to get some competition in and kind of get those reps in with the first team, see what it's like. You know
valuable reps here.
Yeah. And sure. So I think that's something that I'm interested in, and also just the linebacker position. I know. Me too. Anthony Barr is not there. Eric Kendricks has been a little bit away. And then you kind of have to see what this new group is going to be, what the pairings are going to be, how they're going to mix it up, because it's just not all that clear right now. And so you're like, I think, it's early on. We're not talking about training camp. We're talking about OTAs. And so I think you really can't take too much away from what you see, because they're probably just trying to mix it up and just see what combinations they even have to work with right now. And so it's one of those things where I'm not really too concerned or too, keen on like, oh man, this person is up in the first team. Like, oh man, what does that mean? Like, I don't know if it means a whole lot right now. I think they're just trying to fill it out right now.
Za'Darius Smith coming off a serious back injury. Danielle Hunter's landed on the IR the last 2 seasons. These depth positions behind them could play pivotal roles if and when some of these guys miss some time at some point in the season. So, again, just a lot of young, untapped guys on the roster we just don't know a lot about yet. We talked a few weeks ago before the draft about that underwhelming 2021 class they brought in. And it's not to say that they couldn't play if given the chance, but Mike Zimmer just never really gave a lot of those guys much playing time. Chaz Surratt, 3rd-round pick. Patrick Jones, 3rd-round pick. Wyatt Davis at guard, 3rd-round pick. And that's just last year. Now you've got another crop of rookies to add to the mix. So your starters feel set in stone, but all the action right now is happening behind them with a lot of moving parts, a lot of different variables taking place with those backup spots for sure. By the way, the Vikings now have the third youngest team in the NFL and apparently the seventh youngest team by average age in all of the four major sports. So many
Wow.
expect them to be highly competitive right now, right out the gate, which is true. But this roster is now loaded with a lot of young talent waiting to be developed and groomed, giving the Vikings, which should be a nice little window to grow into the next, 3 to 5 years. All right, Reggie. Well, the time has come. My favorite segment is here. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. We're going to cover all the latest hot topics in Minnesota sports called What Does It Mean? You ready?
Let's do it.
Many fans have started to circle and highlight highly anticipated matchups on the schedule. Maybe none more than Week 10 in Buffalo when the Vikings will square up with the Bills and face off versus their former superstar wideout, Stephon Diggs. What does it mean when combing through the schedule and pinpointing your favorite maybe player-specific matchups when you look at this schedule top to bottom?
So has Diggs been back since he left? I don't
think so. No, this will be the first reunion game. Yep, this will be it. This will be it right here. Because in the AFC East, you just don't see those teams a lot, and he's been gone, 2 years? So, no, this will be the first time the Purple square off against Diggs for sure.
He's going to be jacked up, man.
Oh, no doubt.
I think he's going to be jacked up for sure because, he wanted out. He got his wish, went to Buffalo. They gave him all that big money. And he's flourishing up there with Josh Allen. Well, Minnesota's like, look, it's all right. We drafted Justin Jefferson to be your replacement, and he's filled in supremely. He's been a dream. So it's just like, Stephon who? What happened? There always will be the Minnesota Miracle. So like he'll always have, a place in Vikings fans' hearts, but also they'll remember, how volatile he was, as a locker room guy, as a presence with the team, with this saga of does he want to be a Viking or does he not? That's the worst thing that fans really want, other than, if their team is going to move, but I won't go there. But that's one of the worst things that fans want to hear is, a guy that is not in, a guy that doesn't want to be, on your football team. And so, I'm sure he's going to be jacked up to like show and prove. And, I'm sure he's going to be talking a lot of trash and, all of that good stuff. But I'm excited to see that matchup because I think it should be exciting. And hopefully, all these people are picking the Bills to, be this team this year. Hopefully, we see a really good competitive game. And I think we would with everything that the Vikings are building. But that's going to be a fun matchup for sure.
Yeah, the only other one that really pops out, Kirk Cousins going back to Washington. We play the Commanders Week 9. That'll be
like that.
You like that? You like that game. Those are probably the two biggest ones, though. I know the Lions, and they took Jameson Williams. We played them Week 3. I don't expect to see Jameson Williams quite then, but we played them Week 14. Jameson Williams should be on the field for sure by then. That'll be an intriguing kind of matchup game within the game.
How about a rematch with the Cowboys? That game was awful.
Yeah.
They got beat by a backup quarterback that night.
On Monday night? Sunday night.
On national television. They got beat by a backup quarterback.
That's
on Halloween.
Right. That's when, they talk about the writing on the wall for Mike Zimmer. That's when the pens started to come out and people started to sketch that out because that was towards the end of the year. Playoffs were on the line. Must-win game. Backup quarterback at home. Prime time. Lights are bright. Couldn't do it. Brutal.
So
Next
we'll
one up.
They'll have Dak. Well, you would hope that they have Dak for that game next year, and so that Dallas defense was a lot better than anybody gave them credit for.
It was.
So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup as well because there's a lot of expectations for Dallas to be good again as well. This is going to be a tough schedule for the Vikings this season.
Yeah, no easy game, no gimmies in the NFL. I don't care who you're playing, no gimmies whatsoever. Talk about that Cowboys defense. Micah Parsons, the reigning defensive rookie of the year coming out of Penn State, just a monster rookie season. He can follow that up with a good sophomore campaign. All right, next one up. NBA draft lottery took place last night, Reggie, and the Orlando Magic pulled the lucky rabbit out of the proverbial hat, winning the first overall pick, followed by the Thunder, Rockets, and Kings rounding out the top four. What does it mean for the Magic's chances to find their next cornerstone big man after winning the first pick 30 years ago to the day yesterday? And then they ultimately drafted Shaquille O'Neal. There's a couple big, nice prospects coming out. I know Gonzaga's Chet Holmgren is being mocked as the number one overall pick right now. But you got Jabari Smith out of Auburn. Duke's got Banchero, who you probably saw during the Final Four run in March Madness. They've got some intriguing options. I think right now everybody's penciling in Chet Holmgren right now from Gonzaga. What do you think?
So I think, and I was talking about this on the Sportscast last night on KARE 11, but I think it would be really cool to see Minnesota South, if you will, with the Magic getting that top pick. Maybe they get Chet. You got Minnehaha Academy.
I love it.
Both guys were teammates in high school, teaming up again to play down in Orlando. Like, I think that would be really cool. And, you know, look, I was reading up a little bit on Chet Holmgren. First of all, he was getting flambéed last night about his suit. And so he wore it for the lottery last night, and he couldn't have looked he couldn't have looked any
You didn't own it. You got to own it.
Like, and I'm looking at some of these tweets, and you know, someone's like, Chet Holmgren's wearing his suit from the prom. Chet Holmgren strikes me as a guy who's going to show up to the draft in a suit jacket and a pair of shorts.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, Chet looks like he hates suits. Like, he was getting cooked last night.
Man.
And so it's funny. It's like, look, he's about to be a pro. He'll probably wear many more suits in his future. But it's interesting because I was asking a couple guys who know hoops what his comparison is in the league, and I'm not sure we know. And I was reading this article on The Ringer, and they were like, look, for every Giannis or, you know, before the injury, Kristaps Porzingis, there's a Thon Maker. You know, these guys who are like a big unicorn. You know what I mean? And I'm interested to see in how he develops in the league, because he has the skills. He does need to put on some weight to kind of make it happen in the league, or at least get some strength about him, because, you know, you look at guys like Kevin Durant, he's pretty much stayed the same size his whole career. And he's done well for himself, I think. You know, maybe. Some may say he's okay, I guess. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to what Chet may do. And I think what's tough is like, look, they got, you know, Anthony, they got Suggs. Like, don't overthink this. Chet is clear and far the best big man in this draft. And, you know, maybe he doesn't play necessarily like the big man, the dominant big man. Like, he's not Shaq. He's not going to dominate. Come on and dominate.
I knew it was coming.
He's not that, but he can grow into a very, very good player, you know, in this league. And so, you know, I'm interested to see what they do at that top pick, to see if they don't magic this thing up and you know, go with someone else, because he seems to be the player for them at number one.
Last one up. Miami Heat took over in the third quarter. They beat the Celtics 118-107, while in the NHL, the Colorado Avs took the Blues to overtime, came away victorious with a 3-2 win. What does it mean when projecting which number one seed game one win was more vital and impactful to their series chances?
Oh, that's tough, man.
Who needed it more? Who really needed that one more?
I think the Heat. I think so too. They did what they had to do with the Celtics not having Marcus Smart, not having Al Horford, which is tough with this Horford thing, because you just don't know how long he's going to miss time with, you know, being in the COVID protocol. And so it's like, look, they beat a wounded team, and that's what they should have done. But you know what, man? It says a lot about the grit of the Celtics that they were still competing, and they were still putting themselves in a chance to win that game, which, it's the NBA. They didn't get to where they are by happenstance, so that they were going to bring it. But I think they probably, the Heat probably need it, because a lot of these pundits and people alike are just kind of writing the Heat off, saying maybe they didn't have enough to beat a team as deep as Boston. And they showed in game one. I mean, Jimmy scored 41.
Mm-hmm.
They showed that it's just Jimmy's like, look, we don't have enough. I'll make it enough. And so I think that's going to be fun. And on the other side, that game between the Avalanche and the Blues, that's going to be a series, man. I think that thing is going to go 7. Yeah. And it's so funny because I was making jokes last night. The Blues scored first. I was like, it's just like I said. The Blues they're gonna go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and then the Avalanche will score, and I'm like, it's just like I said. the Avalanche
Can't go wrong, man.
Are gonna go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Are you listening to what I'm saying? And so I think it's funny, man, because it's just each of those games are gonna be crazy, and so I thought that maybe the Blues were just playing with a little bit more, momentum after what they did with the Wild, and the Avalanche have just kind of been sitting back eating Cheetos, waiting on their opponent for a while. And no, they came out and did the daggone thing. And so that game was exciting. I think that's going to be a very, very exciting series on that side as well. But I think it meant a little bit more to the Heat. And just to pivot really quick, I know a lot of people were probably headed to bed or in bed at this point last night, but shout out to the Lynx.
Let's go.
Got it done. Look, it's funny because, Coach Reeve has been kind of just trying to figure out rotations, figure out the right mix with this roster, and it seems to be that they have found something. Caleb McBride over in Turkey, balling. Gets on the plane, flies to Los Angeles, comes out and cooks the Sparks for 24 points. Sylvia's like, look, man, I've been putting the team on my back. Kayla came back off the plane like, I got you, sis. Let's go out here and do this. And so it's funny, so much was said about, them being 0-4 last year. They started 0-4 this year, and now, the same thing happened. They picked up a win. That was a huge win, too, against the Sparks. The Sparks are no slouches, you know what I mean? That team is stacked as well. And so I think that they're going to have a nice little 1-2 punch now with Kayla, with Sylvia, and I think they're going to start to try to figure some things out. That was an encouraging game. They go to Las Vegas to play the Aces. Next, I think that's tomorrow, and we'll see, how they build on that win. But what a big time win from the Lynx in a game that they really needed after McBride helped her Turkish team win a title on Sunday. Hop on a flight, go to Los Angeles, and jet lag be darn, tired be darn. She's rolling in from one season right into the next. And comes out and just balls. I think that's probably the best thing for the Lynx is that, she was already playing. She was already in game mode. And so she was just like, look, I'm coming out and hooping. And she did. 24 points, watch out, man. I think they found something. And that's exciting to see. Especially when you consider that she pretty much had the game-winning play with that reverse lay-in with 2 seconds left. A 3-point play to kind of put them up for good.
Yeah, giving them a little spark that they desperately needed for sure. First one's the hardest. They're on the board finally. A lot of high expectations this season for sure from the Minnesota Lynx.
38 minutes.
Dude, that's
38
wild.
minutes. Coming off the plane, playing 38 minutes. You think they needed her or what?
You think she caught a little cat nap in that plane ride on the way? Or
I hope so.
Jacked up? Was she just jacked, man?
Catch a nap now.
Right. Either way, whatever she did, it worked. Copy and paste that routine for sure. Reggie and I will be breaking down more Minnesota Lynx as the season progresses. Reggie, you survived the gauntlet. We're back here tomorrow breaking down Twins Game 3 versus the A's tonight. Sonny Gray on the mound, 2:37 afternoon first pitch. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us every day for another episode covering all the biggest topics in Minnesota sports. He's Reggie Wilson. Follow him on Twitter at Reggie Wilson TV and on KARE11. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Tune in tomorrow to Superior Sports Talk, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Reggie, I'm Luke. Until tomorrow, signing out.
Be blessed. Spread love today.
This is Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota.